You can feel the excitement and anticipation in the air.
The World Series of Poker. Yeah. Good luck, everybody.
The cards are back on the table. The chips are ready to go as we are moments away from action here on the third day one of the main event. Today, the game's greats have come out in force. But even in this star-studded field, two men clearly stand alone.
Yes!
Phil Hellmuth owns a record 11 bracelets.
Hellmuth wins the championship.
His resume is long,
I can dodge bullets, baby.
but he's short on temper
Another Queen 10? Buddy, you're an idiot.
and humility.
I know what to do in the main event. And I don't just play my hands, I play their hands and them.
On the flip side, there's mild-mannered Joe Catta,
Joe Cannon did it again.
setting a record of his own with his run to the title.
Joe Cannon, the youngest main event champ ever.
And now he's out to prove he's no fluke.
There is a little pressure, but there should be no reason why I shouldn't be going deep in this event.
Two champions. Two record holders.
There's the rest of the world, and there's me.
Day one of the main event begins all over again, starting now. Welcome to the World Series of Poker, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. I'm Lon McCarran, along with Norman Chad. The masses are flooding into the Rio Poker Room as a whole new group of players begin their main event journey.
Feel good.
What really stands out today are the familiar faces scattered throughout the field, like Steve Begleiter, who was among last year's November 9. High-stakes players like Tom Dwan and Patrick Antonius are hoping for a big payday in this tournament. And two-time main event champ Johnny Chan leads a pack of 8 former world champions in attendance, hoping to make another run at the title.
You know, this is the one he's count, baby. You know what I mean?
But the one former champion not yet in attendance is Phil Hellmuth, who will be at table 2.
Another Poker Brat entrance? I just can't wait.
Meanwhile, currently seated at our feature table is the 2009 main event champion Joe Catta. Last year, he went through much of the field anonymously. Now, he's one of the most famous names in the poker world as he looks to defend his title today.
What do you do for a living? This?
Yeah, who doesn't play poker for a living these days?
Just hoping for a different response.
Catta sizing up his competition here at the featured table. Everyone looking to capture the main event bracelet, as Joe Catta did last year. Everyone began with 30,000 chips. Action is on Alex Gregory from Tampa, Florida, on the Jack Link's Beef Jerky Pocket Cam 7.5.
Gregory is a scrap metal buyer. That means he buys scrap metal.
He raises to 600 from Under the Gun +1 over to Joe Catta with Pocket Nines, his winning hand from last November.
And he's JCatta99 online. He loves nines.
He does call for 600. Ed Ross, ace-7 of clubs from the cutoff.
He tapes every World Series telecast on ESPN, which means he should know I don't play ace-7.
And he makes the call. 3 to the flop. Deuce 6-9. Catta with a set of nines. Ross does pick up a club flush draw. Gregory with a gut shot straight draw. Something for everyone. Gregory checks. He needs an 8 for a straight. Catta checks his set. Ross
In position with the nut flush draw, a good spot for Ross to take a shot.
That's 1,100 with that draw. Now to Gregory.
Gregory has what I would call a scrap metal yard hand.
He makes the call, though. Catta,
Raise.
with the best hand, decides to check raise to 5,000.
Catta announces himself. Hey, folks, I'm the world champ, and I've got the best hand.
So what will the two amateurs do against the world champ? Ross makes the call.
Gregory's hand is the poker equivalent of bad scrap metal. Bad scrap metal, son.
Now he is thinking about it. And he decides to fold. So heads up, Ross and Catta to the turn. It's a 6 that pairs the board. Catta gets the check mark with a full boat.
Boy, this kid runs good.
Almost half the pot. 6,500 is the bet.
Ross with the nut flush draw, but he knows from watching all our shows that the check mark you just mentioned means he is drawn dead.
And a7 into the muck, and Joe Catta, the world champ, will take that pot. I guess the kid still has it. Joe Catta begins his defense in strong fashion here on day one. Norman, it remains to be seen how long Joe Cata will hang on to the title youngest main event champion. No doubt his record of 21 years, 11 months will be hard to break. A still absent Phil Hellmuth held that moniker for 2 decades. But that title may be the only thing these two champions have in common.
Joe Cata drives a Jeep. Phil Hellmuth takes a limo. Joe walks quietly into the poker room. Phil needs to clear his entrances with the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce. Joe is mild-mannered at the table. Phil is Hannibal Lecter with chips. But they have each won the big one, and who knows, maybe in 20 years, Joe Cata will be the new poker brat.
Well, it may not take that long, Norman, if he keeps going 0 for 16 in World Series cashes as he did this year, and he's hoping to turn that around here in the main event. Meanwhile, over at table 2, everyone's still awaiting the arrival of Phil Hellmuth, who may now have a target on his back.
So everyone's clear. After Hellmuth gets here, we have $100 ahead. Anybody that takes him out gets the bounty from the table. Yep.
I've got my 100 right here, Lon. Who do I give it to?
Well, even when he's not here, Phil is always the center of attention. Out in the field, 10-time bracelet winner Johnny Chan is getting a lot of attention. Chan just called the all-in of Matt Lessinger, who flopped a set of 8s, but Chan with a set of 10s and most of his chips in the pot has a chance to get a leg up on the field. Lessinger gets no help on the river. He's knocked out, and Johnny Chan has a bunch of chips.
So Johnny Chan essentially is starting this main event with twice as many chips as everybody else. That doesn't seem entirely fair.
What a start for the 2-time world champ. Across the room, 98 main event champ Scotty Wynn in a hand with Matthew Ashton. The river card just came out, both checked. Scotty just waves a white flag, and Ashton will take that pot. He won it with a pair of queens.
You know one thing about me, baby? If I lost a hand, I don't get mad at the player or the dealer. I get mad at myself, you know? How stupid can I play, you know what I mean?
But the only man to win the main event and the $50,000 Horse World Championship, so he's not playing too stupid too often.
Elsewhere, Daniel Negreanu is saying, I am committed to this hand. He re-raised all in against the amateur David Orr from Carlsbad, California.
Ready to be the hero? No, I want to play some more, though. That's what I was hoping. Because I have absolutely nothing right now, but I do have a draw, a very big draw.
Wow, this early on day 1? Can Daniel really be shoving all in on a semi-bluff? This is for his tournament.
Orr lays it down, and Daniel Negreanu will carry on.
Is everything you were saying true? Oh, I can't tell you.
Daniel getting aggressive here early on day 1. Meanwhile, over at table 2, we're still waiting for Phil Hellmuth to show up.
I can't tell you how fast my heart is beating, Lon.
Well, Norman, I'm sure he'll be coming through those doors very soon.
At Ultimate Bet, we constantly perfect and test our software to ensure it's the fastest, most advanced around. We can solve with the best. So our tournament structure and player interface, it's rock like no other. But there's one test that totally cleans up at the table. One test that truly defines the ultimate poker experience. Nice. Very nice.
To make a fool of himself once a year, go have at it.
Well, this is something special, Norman.
If he's going to be naked this often, he needs to work out. He's got moves.
All hail Emperor Lunatic.
Phil Hellmuth doesn't have the embarrassment gene. So this year, I'm sure it'll be even more ridiculous.
I'm sorry, he looks preposterous.
Welcome back to the Rio. And Norman, I hear some rumbling outside the poker room, and this could be it, the arrival of Phil Hellmuth.
I am giddy, Lon.
And Phil is wearing a fighter's robe.
This is tame, and even by poker brat entrance standards, so lame.
Phil dressed as a mixed martial arts fighter, and he is grabbing the attention he was looking for.
I waited a whole year for this? This would be a good entrance if someone would knock him out right now.
Well, Phil gets a good luck kiss from his entourage, and I guess he's ready to go. As he warms up with a couple of jabs, he'd hate to pull a muscle performing a check raise.
I wish he could hit himself.
You guys have a little bounty on me?
Yeah, $100 ahead. $900 prize or $800 prize pool.
Fair enough. I like it.
Actually, it's $1,000. I'm going to throw in 200.
All right, well, we do have a poker tournament to play. Action on David Catalan. He raises with pocket nines to 300. Hold it over to Helmuth. 7-6 off.
Helmuth says 2009 was his worst year ever in poker. The first time since 1998 he did not make a World Series final table.
All right, I'll call you.
But he did make a final table this year. Those are Phil's parents.
They must be proud.
Phil made the call, and he'll go to the flop with Catalan. The flop is 7-10-5. Catalan's pocket nines are ahead. Phil flopped a pair of sevens, and he bets 400.
Well, it's kind of hard to flick a chip out there like this.
Who told you to wear gloves in a row?
That's going to be a challenge. When's the last time you've been in gloves? That's going to be a challenge.
Catalan makes the call.
Helmuth says he's back to his super tight classic Phil strategy, but playing 7-6 off from the big blind doesn't seem to fit that mold.
A queen on the turn. Catalan's nines are still ahead.
Phil also says he's talked to younger players like Brandon Cantu on how to mix up his play, and Phil has cashed 4 times at this World Series.
Phil bet. Catalan calls.
I still think Phil is struggling with his style of play right now.
I want a deuce. What do you want?
I want a deuce too.
Oh, man.
Let's see what the river brings. It's a 9 and a set for Catalan. Gives him the check mark.
Now I check.
Third heart on board, too, and Phil checks. Catalan will bet it 1,000.
Oh, heart.
Phil says his reading ability at the moment is phenomenal, so this should be an easy fold for him. He looks ridiculous.
Phil with a pair of sevens.
I don't know.
Did you call me with a 5?
Phil actually folded.
I showed you a 7.
Yeah.
Catalan will take the pot. Helmuth outpointed in round 1.
Yeah, they're the ones to blame.
Is my hair okay?
If I were him, I wouldn't be worried about the hair.
While Phil plays the role of a fighter at table 2, across the room we find a real fighter, 3-time world champ boxer Jeff Fennick of Australia.
World champion as a bantamweight, super bantamweight, and featherweight.
Fennick put out a bet and shows the winning hand.
I used to box.
Used to box, yeah?
He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2002.
It's a much more painless way to get knocked out.
Is this it?
Another accomplished athlete in the field is Eric Baldwin. He was the captain of the University of Wisconsin Whitewater 2005 Division III National Championship baseball team. He's facing a bet of $5,000 right now. Baldwin will fold.
Baldwin had a great 2009, winning his first bracelet and named Card Players Player of the Year.
Perhaps the most physically imposing person in the room is Tony Campagna on the left. He's all in. He twice finished second in the Mr. America bodybuilding competition in the over 40 age group. And it looks like he hit the river to stick around.
That's what happens when you try to stick it to me every time. One time. Suck one time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And that's how you get it on the river.
Woo. Let's go back to the feature table now to check in on Joe Cata, who was the toast of the town in 2009.
Letterman? He has no idea about cards.
Joe talking about his appearance on David Letterman after he won the main event.
He did like this thing where he shows cards out, and I see him. He's hey, he's like, can't look. He's like, close your eyes. He's like, okay, now what are the cards? I'm like, like, what are you talking about?
Apparently, David Letterman confusing Joe Cata with Penn and Teller.
The blinds are up to 150 and 300. Action on Joe Cata with pocket sevens.
What gets overlooked about Cata last year because he made history is that at one point of that final table, he had barely 1% of the chips in play.
He raises to 800 under the gun +1. Nils Bardsley with pocket kings, a 40-year-old amateur from Denver. And he says re-raise. He makes it 2,200.
It was a remarkable comeback for an extreme short stack. Now, what does get remembered about Joe is that he got all his money in bad a couple of times in situations just like this and got very lucky to stay alive.
Cata makes the call and will go heads up against the pocket kings with his sevens. The flop is ace, ace, 7. Wow, Cata flops sevens full.
Boy, this kid runs good.
The yellow border around a player's name indicates they're next to act. Cata checks.
Joe slow plays it. He hopes to get paid off later.
Bardsley checks behind. Turn card now. Deuce of spades. Cata still in control. Bardsley picks up an irrelevant flush draw. Cata first to act. That's 3,600.
Remember, Bardsley 3-bet it pre-flop, so Cata knows he likely has a big pair or a big ace.
And Bardsley makes the call. Cata loves to see that. River card is a 4 of spades. Cata is best. He gets the check mark. Bardsley, though, caught the nut flush, and that may cost him.
This is just a sickening hand for Nils Bardsley.
Cata comes out with 11,000. Who can fold here?
Now, Bardsley's getting 2.5 to 1 on a call here. He made the nut flush. I don't see how he lays it down.
Yeah, he does make the call. And Cata will take that pot.
Yeah, buddy. He's the champ.
Joe Cata, last year's comeback kid, comes from behind again and is rolling here on day one.
Series of Poker presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Main event.
Back at the Rio, action underway at the featured table where Joe Cata is living right. He caught trip 9s and a 5-way flop. None of the other 4 came close. So Cata now has the check mark after the turn. Miller has a pair of 3s. The other 3 are still looking for help.
Well, I don't know how you see everyone behind those graphics, but I know Cata had almost everyone drawn dead on the flop, and he checked it then.
Bardsley had checked to Miller, who bets 1,100 with his pair of trades. Bryce and Gregory fold. Cata makes the call. Bardsley folds.
You know, Cata fully admits he got very lucky at last year's final table, but he correctly says he played pretty good too. Here he flopped another big hand and now has to figure out how to best play it.
The ace was no help to Miller. He checks. Cata bets 2,700.
Cata finally shifts into 5th gear, but Miller can't beat much here. I've got a feeling Joe's going to have to drive away with a small pot.
And Miller will lay it down. A small pot, but it does go to Joe Cata. The 2009 main event champion has maintained his unassuming persona despite his success on poker's biggest stage.
Cameras and autographs and stuff like that. That's the biggest change in my life. I'm getting used to it. I used to be so shy, but now it's getting a little bit easier because I'm opening up a lot more.
Time to get the ball rolling.
My lifestyle hasn't changed too much. I don't need a huge house. I don't want like a fancy car, so I drive a Jeep. The money's helpful. I'm able to help my family out a little bit, but it's nothing where I feel like splurging on tons of new stuff. And I'm doing something I love to do, and being able to travel and see the world at an early age, it's great.
After winning the main event, one of Joe's biggest purchases was just a couple of jet skis. The rest of the money, he says, is sitting in the bank. I hope he chose the right bank.
All right, let's go out in this large field, and we see the man Cata beat heads up to win the main event, Darvin Moon. Darvin is just a spectator today as he's scheduled to play in the final day 1 session. He is sweating Dennis Phillips right now. Dennis picked up pocket kings against Miguel Alvarez, who flopped a set of 6s. Alvarez just bet 2,700 on the river.
I call.
Dennis makes the call.
Hand me all the way.
And loses.
Phillips, the chip leader going into the main event final table 2 years ago. Darvin Moon, of course, the chip leader last year.
From 2 main event chip leaders to Billy Kopp, who was among the chip leaders late in last year's main event until Darvin knocked him out. Kopp trying to double up with trip trays against the pocket queens of Mario Esquerra.
Kopp, still a senior at the University of Kentucky. Poker has slowed down his pursuit of a degree.
Kopp is at risk.
Billy looking to dodge a queen.
The river card is a face card, but it's a jack, and with a full house, Billy Kopp will double up.
And that pot is going to keep Billy Kopp out of class a little longer.
Kopp, a very successful internet player, as is Patrick Antonius at another table. He's successful just about anywhere he goes, except in the main event. He's in a hand right now against Mike Sika.
Antonius still without a bracelet. Little man Mike Sika won one in 2004.
Patrick put out a 1,500 chip bet, and Sika will lay it down.
Patrick looks good today, Lon, doesn't he?
Don't leave now. The old man's just warming up.
I'm feeling a little hot myself.
Thanks for that segue, Norman, to one of the other hottest players on the planet, Tom Dwan. His online challenge with Patrick Antonius has been an ongoing story, as has his penchant for prop bets, one of which has him wearing a large button of poker pro Peter Jetton hugging a koala bear. Tom, known as Durr, and Michael McNeil just saw a queen of hearts on the river. Dwan check-raised McNeil to 8,700.
Durr and Antonius are playing 50,000 hands of No Limit Hold'em and Pot Limit Omaha online.
McNeil makes the call, and Durr shows the nut flush.
Durr is just 23, but a lot of players talk about him in reverential tones, particularly in regard to his no-limit skills.
Let's get back to table 2. Phil Hellmuth's table broke, and a whole new cast of characters has joined him. I guess nobody gets the bounty. After a wardrobe change, Phil leads the way after flopping a set of 5s. Bob Redman on the right missed the flop. John Rollison caught a pair of aces, and he bet 800, while Pierre Gilles has an up-and-down straight draw, and he called.
Helmuth limped in under the gun, then checked his set on the flop.
Helmuth makes the call for 800. Redman gets out of the way, so 3 players will see the turn card. Helmuth way ahead. Gilles with a straight draw, Rollison drawing thin. It's a 9 on the turn. Helmuth's 3 5s are best.
Remember, Phil has proclaimed no more poker brat in 2010. He's trying to shed that behavior, and he's kept to it pretty well.
Gilles checks over to Phil, who checks behind. Rollison now, with 2 aces and drawing dead, he bets 1,500. Gilles lays it down. Now to Helmuth.
9. Wow.
See how friendly Phil is there? Then again, he's in the middle of a hand, and he knows he's probably way ahead.
All right.
Phil calls for 1,500. Rollison and Helmuth heads up now. 9 pairs the board. Phil improves to 5s full. He has the check mark. Rollison now with aces up. Phil first to act. He checks.
Check.
Helmuth hoping Rollison bets.
He checks as well.
God dang it all. I had him drawn dead.
You've got to do your own bidding on the river, buddy.
Yeah, he made a great check. Why didn't I bet the river? At least I won the minimum.
Phil happy to win, but may have left some chips on the table.
It's just like poker. At first you play, and maybe you're not so good. So you practice, and then you practice some more. And you know what? Eventually you find your rhythm, your game, and you get better. And there you are, a poker player. Learn to play better poker for free at the world's largest online poker site, PokerStars.com, and find the PokerStar in you.
Back at the Rio, the third of 4 day 1 sessions is in full swing, and it's time now for the Jack Link's Beef Jerky wildcard hand. And for that, we go to table 2, where Phil Helmuth is seated.
I was just named Jack Link's wildcard hand player of the month, Lon, because I have been hot.
Action on James Carroll. He has the Jack Link's wildcard hand on the button. He's going to raise it to 800.
He used to drive race cars, and he was a tattoo artist. I think he's got gamble in him, Lon. I'm going to put him on 10-8 suited.
All right, to Phil Helmuth in the big blind with pocket jacks.
Carroll knows Helmuth's certainly capable of giving up his big blind, but he couldn't know Phil's going to pick up pocket jacks.
And Phil does make the call for 500, and these two will go heads up. The jacks against the mystery hand. The flop is 4-5 tray. Helmuth gets no help.
Phil told me his bag of tricks is fully operational right now. I don't know if I want to see that entire bag.
Phil will check the flop. Carroll now. He's going to bet it. 1,300.
He's running a grift. He's playing 3-card Monty against my poker brat. Check raise him, Phil. He's trying to run you over with nothing.
Just a call from Phil.
This punk's got 10-8.
All right, turn card now is another tray. So Phil with jacks up.
This guy's got 10-8.
Helmuth checks again. So to the 10-8 suited, does he have spades, Norman?
I don't think so.
He does check.
See, I told you. He's got squadouche on a stick. You should have bet, Phil.
River card is a 10 of spades, a third spade on board.
This guy's got 10-8. Guaranteed.
Phil has checked twice.
1475.
Now bets 1475.
What's the point of betting now? He's either got nothing and can't call, or he can beat you and will raise your mixed Marshall behind.
Carroll does raise to 6,200.
It's possible I misread Carroll's hand. Maybe he had a flush draw and got there.
Phil's parents look on intently.
But I don't believe him, Phil. Pick off his bluff. I'm backing half your action, buddy.
4,700 is the call.
Good call.
Carroll with the nut flush. He had the spades.
Bad call.
And Carroll wins the Jack Link's Beef Jerky wildcard hand.
Worst player at the table.
Uh-oh. Phil Helmuth's back in the valley of unhappiness.
Man, the guy's the worst. I mean, he's by far. You know, I mean, it's so bad, the guy. God.
Oh, I'm the worst.
My poker brat's reared his ugly head again. It must mean 6 more weeks of winter.
319 players entered the main event. The prize pool worth almost $69 million, almost $9 million to the winner.
$9 million? That barely covers Phil Hellmuth's therapy costs.
We may have one fewer by the time the river hits at Chao Zhang's table. He's all in with pocket tens, called by Antonio Esfandiari with ace queen.
Goodbye, Chao Chao.
No way.
It was nice playing with you.
No way.
Say your goodbyes now.
No, little one.
Here's the flop.
Little one, please.
Queen 10 ace. Antonio with aces up as Zhang hits a set.
No ace, no queen.
I don't think we've seen a player getting massaged win a hand yet this year.
Antonio's sick about that flop. There's a 6 on the turn. No help to Antonio.
I'm not counting.
Chao has to dodge an ace or a queen to double up.
River card is another 6.
I'm still here, don't worry.
And Zhang will double up with 10s full.
Likeable bracelet winners clash. Chao Zhang gets the best of it.
And Zhang will take a bunch of Antonio's chips from one high-stakes player to another. There is Tom Dwan mixing it up with Todd Butts. Butts in the red hat, an amateur from North Carolina. 2 deuces, 2 5s, and now a queen on board, 3 spades also.
Dwan came up with his nickname Durr, pretty much just to annoy opponents when they said it.
Tom bets 2,100 into Butts, and Butts will make the call. And Dwan shows 2 5s for quads.
Durr.
Wow, that will annoy your opponent. Big hands for a high-powered player. Look out, main event. Dwan's skill and gambling persona have really captured the attention of the entire poker world.
Tom's a great young player.
He is clearly one of the best poker players in the world.
Dwan is a fun guy to have around because he just creates so much action.
I have a little bit of confidence in myself and my poker game. From the various bets I've made, I think that's pretty obvious. I felt like if I was going to play tournaments this year, I wanted to go all out. In order to do that, I decided to make bracelet bets. I'll do a lot of bets to motivate myself, just to keep life interesting. The most common ones being a 1 bracelet in a year bet, where I got laid usually around 3.25 to 1. There ended up being a ton of very high stakes action. Pretty early in the series, I got second in a 1,500 no-limit hold'em. There were definitely a bunch of people sweating.
Everyone was just on the edge of their seat watching Tom heads up for a bracelet because everyone had financial stake in whether he won or lost.
They were all just sweating blood. I was really enjoying it, and I was glad that I didn't bet him. And I was really pulling for him to win it.
It stung a little bit to have that many chips and then not win. Hopefully next year, or maybe the main event.
Dwan played in 52 of the 54 events this year to try to win the millions of dollars he had at stake, and it looks like he's switching the Peter Jetten button he's got to wear after losing a longer bet to him at last year's main event.
And there is the real Peter Jetten.
And those buttons, Lon, have become a cult item. I've noticed a bunch of players in the poker room are wearing Peter Jetten buttons.
Jetten from Toronto cashed at last year's main event, winning that longer bet, and made a final table at this year's World Series, but he will not win that hand as he folds to his opponent. All right, let's get back over to the featured table. The same blinds, 150 and 300, but the players now have a 25 chip ante.
The table last year was so great, the starting table. I ended the day with 190. 190.
Kata was his day 1 sessions chip leader last year.
And the way he's playing and the way the cards are falling, he may be the day 1 chip leader tonight as well. Action folds over to the defending world champ Joe Kata, pocket trays.
You know, Mozart wrote his E-flat Concerto K271 before he was 21, so I don't think Kata winning the main event before he was 22 is that impressive.
From the hijack seat, Kata raises to 800 to Tommy Miller, King Jack of Diamonds for the 24-year-old.
When Miller was 21, he was studying architectural technology at Farmingdale State. Now that's impressive.
Miller makes the call from the small blind, and he will see a flop with Joe Kata. It is queen, queen for Kata with queens up. It's the best hand, but Miller favored with the flush draw and 2 overs.
I don't even know what architectural technology is.
Miller checks. Kata now. That's 1,000, 1 yellow chip. Miller comes along.
I hate making a call when you're chewing gum.
Third card down is a 9 of diamonds, and Miller hits his flush.
Well, Miller now with the best hand, and he's a big favorite to keep the best hand.
Miller first to act, and he'll check the flush. Cata checks 2.
Oh, a twirly bird check.
And these two will see a river card. Miller in control until now. Cata rivers trays full to steal the hand.
Boy, this kid runs good.
Miller with his diamond flush bets 1,600.
A small value bet from Miller, but he's in for a big surprise.
Joe Cata. That's more than 1,600. That's a raise to 8,500.
I don't think architectural technology covers this type of situation.
You have 9s, really? 3s?
Miller with the right notion.
Such a big bet. All right, I call.
He does call and will learn his flush. Came in a close second.
3s.
Full house.
So sick.
He's the champ.
And the champ takes another nice pot.
All he plays is full houses. Don't you guys know that? Sets every time.
Play pairs. Good at hitting sets, I found out.
A useful skill to have when you're going for back-to-back main event titles.
Helmuth wins the championship. Peter Eastgate is our 2008 main event champion. Joe Cata, the youngest main event champ ever.
A reminder of the 3 most recent men to hold the moniker of youngest main event champion. Joe Cata, the record holder right now. He's in a hand with short stack Nils Bardsley. Bardsley re-raised all in from the cutoff pre-flop. Cata called with pocket queens, and he's ahead.
By the way, 2 years after winning the main event, Peter Eastgate is not here. He says he's taking an indefinite period of time off from poker.
The turn card, Bardsley at risk. He gets no help with the 6 of clubs.
Cata cracked Bardsley's pocket kings earlier when he flopped a full house. Now Bardsley needs an ace or he's gone.
It's a jack on the river, too little, too late. Nils Bardsley eliminated by the world champion, Joe Cata.
He's the champ.
Let's take a look at the tail of the tape brought to you by the official WSOP game. Play now on Facebook. Joe's voluntary hands played when not in the blinds or VPIP is slightly below the table average of 20%.
Joe's VPIP indicates that he's playing somewhat tight, but you combine that with an aggression factor well above the 56% table average, and the champ has doubled his starting chip stack.
There is 2007 bracelet winner Robert Mizrachi with pocket kings. He's a big favorite against Claymont Toomey with pocket queens. Toomey bet 6,300 on a flop of all undercards. Robert raises. Toomey now all in.
Mizrachi had 3-bet pre-flop, and then Toomey 4-bet it from the big blind.
Toomey called all in, and he'll be looking at a slippery climb out of a very deep hole. So Toomey at risk. Turn card is another 9. Toomey got no help.
Mizrachi has made 3 final tables of this World Series. Toomey has to hit a queen.
River is a 6, and kings up are enough to take the pot and knock out Claymont Toomey.
Lucky day, my friend.
Headset is off. Day is over. We saw Michael Mizrachi thrive on his day one, and now older brother Robert is following suit.
Long day.
Yeah, if Robert knows there's a little reason to get too excited about anything at this stage. At another table, Daniel Negreanu trying to stay relaxed. He's in a hand with Jomer Mielis of the Netherlands on the river.
Daniel's getting massaged, so I can't like his hand.
Mielis will check the river. Daniel looks like he's going to bet at 2,400. Action back to Mielis. 28-year-old from the Netherlands, former broker, now playing poker for a living. And he raises to 5,800.
A check raise.
Daniel, the 4-time bracelet winner, re-pops it to 11,002.
Boy, Mielis with the check raise, and now Daniel returns fire. Who's got what?
Action on Mielis. And he folds.
You had the right idea. I was just goofing around.
Daniel shows rags.
Like the whole time I decided I was going to go nuts.
Me too.
Really? I feel like you might
I wanted to go in. I was like,
you were like, ah.
Yeah, do it. No, yes,
That was like bluff, free bluff, free bluff. Crazy internet stuff.
Boy, Daniel fooling around and on the edge.
Negreanu out. Crazy's the Northern European. Back to table 2 in the premier aficionado of Northern Europeans, Phil Hellmuth, waiting on his latest foil. James Carroll sitting on the button with pocket aces. And he's going to raise it to 800.
See, if this were the Jack Link's wild card hand, I'd put him on 10-8 suited again.
Hellmuth in the big blind with ace-4 off, and he makes the call for 500 more.
Carroll raises on the button, and Hellmuth again with a playable hand in the big blind.
Here's the flop. 5-9 ace. The case. Ace peels off and gives Carroll a set. Hellmuth with a pair of aces is in trouble, and he checks.
Carroll made a no-limit final table at this World Series.
Carroll bets his 3 aces, 15-50.
This is the type of flop that could get Phil Hellmuth in trouble.
Phil makes the call.
Phil thinks he's running a nickel and dime grift again.
Little does Phil know he's way behind as he gets change on his 5,000 chip.
It's probably coming back to me anyway, right?
Phil, did you hear him? I think the kid just trash-talked you there.
Turn card now. Jack of diamonds. Phil now drawing dead to a foul deck. And Phil checks again.
It's amazing how it always comes down to Phil Hellmuth against some guy who looks like he was working at Radio Shack last week.
Carroll keeps the throttle open, 32-50. Hellmuth, with only about 10,000 chips left in his stack, makes the call.
Well, Phil loves check calling guys when he thinks he's got him right where he wants him. I think Phil thinks he's good.
King on the river. Let's see how Carroll's going to play this, but Phil is first to act.
And if Phil thought he was good on the turn, he may still think he's good here, and that's trouble.
He checks again, and Carroll will try to put Phil all in.
Boy, Carroll put those chips out with authority, and Phil Hellmuth now with the decision for his main event. If he calls, he's done. Carroll has bet every street. Hellmuth has called every street.
Phil going over the hand history right now, trying to figure Carroll out. And Phil lays it down. A good fold by Phil Hellmuth.
Hellmuth avoids elimination right there.
You should show a bluff there.
I wasn't bluffing. You know that.
Well, I had an ace, so you were supposed to bust me.
You'll be surprised when you see what I had.
Either hitting the running king jack or some crazy BS.
Or you were just drawing dead on the flop.
Wow. Another cooler for you, huh?
Indeed, it was a cooler, while Phil is in dire need of a hot streak, and quick.
We play for big pots, small stakes, and the chance to say, read 'em and weep. For the weekends, the all-nighters, and the lunch hour. We play for the legends and for the unknowns who dream of winning it all. For the bad beats and the pocket kings we sometimes have the sense to fold. We play at FullTiltPoker.com.
World Series of Poker, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Main event.
Back at the Rio as action continues here on the third day one session of the main event. Let's get a Durr update with just Jack high. Tom Dwan bet 48.50 into Lee Markholt, who has the check mark with a pair of nines.
Dwan has a remarkable knack of betting opponents off of marginal hands, this exact situation.
But Markholt makes the call.
Durr is undone.
So Durr's Jack high is not good enough as the 46-year-old bull rider turned poker pro Lee Markholt takes the pot.
I think Durr should switch to the Peter Jedden poker playing dogs button.
He's got to switch it up somehow. Meanwhile, across the room, a big hand brewing between Antonio Esfandiari and Chao Zhang again. Chao flopped the nut straight. Antonio flopped top 2 pair.
Antonio's still getting massaged and still behind.
Chao bets 7,000. Antonio with 2 pair. Makes a raise. Chao moves all in. Antonio calls immediately.
A cooler flop for Antonio. Chao now just needs to avoid a king or a queen.
Chao Zhang looking to double up through Esfandiari. The river card. Oh, Esfandiari River's a full house.
Every year it's like this. No king, no queen.
Chao is gone.
Poker gods are on my side today.
Oh, man. It's every year.
Chao has scored just 1 main event cash in the last 14 years. For Esfandiari, the former magician, pulling a 4-outer on the river is mere child's play. But this week, Antonio gave us a front row seat to his life and his magic skills in this edition of Heads Up with Norman Chad.
Let's get it on.
Good start. You once lived with Phil Locke.
I can't take it!
Was that tougher for you or tougher for him?
I think it was tough for both of us, but we had a good time. In the end, he left me for Jennifer.
Good choice.
This is your dollar bill?
Yes.
Simple dollar bill. Let's see what we can do.
That's amazing.
Thank you, sir. You got to get out more often.
Which do you prefer, outplaying Phil Hellmuth or giving him a bad beat?
I'd have to say I prefer giving him a bad beat because outplaying him just comes naturally.
You are an idiot!
I want you to just think of a card, visualize it,
What card were you thinking of?
The 4 of diamonds.
Every card is face down, except for one card, the 4 of diamonds. Now, see how every card is blue? Pull out the 4, turn it over, show the camera. The only card that's red, is the 4 of diamonds.
You know, if we ever lived together, I would put everything I own under lock and key. Could you saw Mike Matusow in half?
Permanently? And for my grand finale, goodbye, Mr. Norman. You're welcome, America.
Was that a big spike in the ratings I just heard?
Good for you.
Very impressive performance by Antonio Esfandiari. Back to the feature table where Joe Cata is having a world champion kind of night so far. Joining the table is the Italian Pirate 2006 bracelet winner Max Pescatori.
Who doesn't love the Italian Pirate?
Action is on Joe Cata on the Jack Link's Beef Jerky Pocket Cam, 8-7 of hearts.
For a young guy, Joe, very disciplined. He has good bankroll management, both at the table and away from the table.
Cata from Under the Gun +3 makes a raise to 800. Action over to Chris Bryce with pocket 6s.
He has a degree in biological sciences from the University of Surrey in England. I believe they are the Ramblin' Wreck.
And he calls for 500. So here's the flop. It is 9-9-8. Cata outflops the World Series rookie, catching a pair of 8s. Bryce, a former minor league soccer player, checks his underpair.
Cata went a couple of semesters to Macomb Community College. Knew it wasn't for him.
Cata bet 1,200, and Bryce will make the call. Turn card is a Jack of Spades. Cata adds a gut shot straight draw.
Joe was like a one-and-done college basketball star. He knew his career path was poker, and he figured school only interfered with it.
And they both check. River card is another Jack, and that's interesting. It means they'll both play the board if neither folds.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate card for Joe. He gets counterfeited on the river.
Bryce does bet it, putting heat on Cata, 3,500.
Nice bet there from Bryce. His pair also got counterfeited. He's playing the board like Joe and hoping to scare him away.
If I had like Queen High.
And Joe Cata wilts. Bryce will win the pot.
Bryce outplays the champ.
The turn river I was looking for.
So Bryce throws a small bump in the road for Cata. Well, champ, you can't win them all. This day one session here at the Rio winding down. We see that we've lost over 600 players during the course of play. The chip averaged almost 41,000. There's Billy Kopp, who flopped aces up and can eliminate Alex Gomez if Gomez does not fill his double belly buster straight on the river.
Gomez, the first Brazilian to win a World Series bracelet. He needs a 9 or a queen or he's gone.
And the river card is a tray of hearts, and that will do it. Kopp wins the hand. Alex Gomez knocked out of the main event.
And Billy Kopp's got some chips now, no?
Indeed, Kopp up to 114,000, hoping to make another deep run in the main event. Meanwhile, across the room, Tom Dwan has moved all in. He's in great shape to double up. He's got jacks up after the turn. Radin Talebi with just a pair of jacks and a gut shot straight draw.
Some of Dwan's prop bets involve him winning a bracelet this year. The main event, his last chance at this World Series. Talebi can only knock him out here with a river queen or 9.
And the river card is the 9. And Talebi rivers his straight to send Tom Dwan out the door.
Whew.
And Durr is reaching for the Peter Jetton button.
I'm sorry, did he just dump Peter Jetton onto his chair?
He did indeed, and that brings a smile to Talebi's face.
Tom, you left Peter Jetton behind.
There is the main event bracelet that Durr will not win, and I'm sure he'll be contacted by some folks wanting to collect on the bracelet bets. Let's get back to the featured table, and world champion Joe Cata looking to go back-to-back. He has pocket jacks.
The champ gets a lot of pocket pairs.
He does indeed. Under the gun, he'll raise it up to 1,100. The blind's at 2 and 400 now. Action is folded over to Gio Ruby, 58-year-old amateur player. Pocket 7s.
He is a sculptor, and the sculptor has re-raised the champ.
He re-raised to 4,000. Cata needs 2,900 to call.
All right, you talked me into it.
And instead, Cata raises Ruby all in. And Ruby makes the call for his tournament life. Pocket 7s for Ruby, pocket jacks for Cata.
Good luck. 7. I only can hit 2 outers. Jack.
Gotta root for the underdog here. Sculpting's a tough way to make a living.
Here's the flop. Deuce 8 ace. That misses Ruby. Cat is still a heavy favorite.
I mean, they say poker's a tough way to make an easy living, but sculpting, no easy living there.
Turn card is a 9 of clubs. No help to Ruby.
Joe Cata in great shape for the knockout. The sculptor now will need a 7 and a 7 only, or he is whamboozled.
The river card is another 9, and Joe Cata wins again, this time eliminating Gio Ruby.
Show me some of your work. I'll make you an offer.
It has been a good day one session for the world champ, Joe Cata, over 68,000 chips. Let's get over to table 2, where Phil Hellmuth is all in and way behind pre-flop. Phil re-raised all in with pocket jacks. A shorter stacked Marion Herring is also at risk, holding ace-king offsuit. Daniel Aldridge can take them both out, holding pocket queens.
Hellmuth cashed at the last couple of main events, but now staring at a day one exit.
And now the flop. 8 deuce king. Herring catches a king to take the lead.
Got the diamonds, though.
Hellmuth knows a flush won't help him since Aldridge has the bigger diamond.
It's pretty bleak for Phil. He's going to need a jack.
Turn card is a 7 of diamonds, and Aldridge picks up that flush draw. Herring's kings are still in the lead. Hellmuth needs a miracle.
Phil looking for a 2-outer. Hellmuth must have a jack or he's out of here.
River card is a 10 of diamonds. Aldridge rivers the flush, knocks off Phil Hellmuth and Marion Herring.
He entered as a fighter, but Phil Hellmuth exits without much fight.
Good luck, everybody.
Oh, a gracious farewell from Phil Hellmuth as Aldridge gets the 2-for-1 knockout. Hellmuth takes his leave on day one.
There should be a bounty on him or something, shouldn't there?
Let's get his address, Lon. I'll send him 100.
It's a little scary what they did to me, honestly.
Well, Norman, listen to that. Is that the new Phil Hellmuth actually giving props to some of the guys at the table?
I mean, the players they're just not very good.
Yeah, actually, Lon, as it turns out, the new Phil sounds just like the old poker brat.
I deserve better, but...
Another disappointing year for the all-time bracelet leader.
And it's an abrupt finish to his 2010 main event. Some of the top players in the game came to the Rio to take their first step towards poker glory.
Definitely looking forward to making a deep run. 4,000 or 5,000 more people to go, no problem.
But for some, the journey ended quickly. Steve Begleiter will not make a repeat appearance in November, and Phil Hellmuth has plenty of time to work on his entrance for next year's main event. All that's left of Tom Dwan is his Peter Jetton Button, while Jetton himself outlasted Dwan again and moves on to day 2. 2 of the toughest guys in the room fought their way through, while Robert Mizrachi, Daniel Olai, and Annie Duke are among the bevy of bracelet winners that advance.
They ain't trouble now. You know, baby?
2-time main event champ Johnny Chan is making a run at a 3rd title, and he's among the chip leaders. But many were focused on the 2009 champion Joe Cata, who was hoping to continue his run to defend his title.
But right now, it's just dodging landmines, playing good poker, and hopefully you don't get in any cooler situations.
For Norm and Chad, I'm Lon McCarran. Thanks for watching the World Series of Poker.